Welcome back to Up West Sports. We have the man, the myth, the legend, Brady Farkas in the house, who is actually at the game tonight. Congrats on getting the credentials as well. That's huge. I wanted to kind of get it started with your experience from the game tonight. What did you see? What were your expectations? What happened tonight? It was a hell of a loss, but what did you see tonight?
Really just a tale of two games. First and foremost, thanks for having me, guys. But yeah, tale of two games, right? This game was pre-rain delay and post-rain delay. And that's really what it boils down to, right? Logan Gilbert was dealing through the first 4 innings, right? He's at 4 innings, 1 hit, 51 pitches, locating the slider, locating the splitter, good mid to upper 90s velocity. He was dominant through the first 4. Now, the Mariners didn't really get anything offensively, obviously, and we were it was looking like it was going to be another 1-0, 2-1 kind of game. But then you come out of the rain delay, and Logan said it afterwards, right? He was pretty terse, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but he was you could tell he was agitated at what had happened, right? He said, I thought my start for the first 4 innings was pretty good. My start after the rain delay was pretty bad. He said that he tried to stay loose as best he could. He's thrown in the cages, and he said he just didn't feel quite the same. So should they have brought him back? That's not really my decision, but they did bring him back, and clearly he didn't have quite the same crispness. And it's unfortunate for me because this is 3 straight starts now where Logan Gilbert has started really hot and then struggled in the 6th inning, right? Struggled against the Cubs and then struggled against Texas. And then now you have this one. Maybe it's 3 or 4, but I wanted to know, okay, is this a trend now, 3rd time through the order? And I don't feel like we have that answer because I feel like this gets blamed on the rain delay. So I feel like we don't really know yet, okay, does Logan Gilbert have 3rd time through the order bugaboos, or is this just about the rain delay? I think he thinks it's about the rain delay today. And that's really what it comes down to. The rain delay threw everything off. I have never seen a rain delay come about mid-at-bat before. I mean, that seems totally odd to me as well, to have runners at 1st and 3rd and a 2-1 count and J.P. Crawford at the plate. Like, look, send it to rain delay after Cole Young's at-bat or after J.P. Crawford's at-bat. But to take, I don't want to call it Bush League and I don't want to call it gamesmanship, but it seems like a mistake by the umpiring crew to start that at-bat without finishing it. Either call it before J.P. Crawford comes to the plate or after J.P. Crawford comes to the plate. But it was just an odd game. I never expected Mariners to shut the Yankees out for 3 consecutive games. I do hate that they gave them momentum moving forward into the rest of the series as well. But tough night at the ballpark, long night at the ballpark, and I don't really think we got a whole lot of answers definitively on Logan Gilbert either.
Yeah.
Real quick, do you think –
Go ahead.
No. I wanted to comment on something you just said there about the gamesmanship. Do you think Aaron Boone or Dan Wilson had any sort of influence on when that rain delay was called, and could potentially Dan Wilson's lack of experience as a manager, whereas you got Boone's been a manager for almost 10 years now, maybe he's got a little bit better feel for the umpires and he can sort of, hey, you should call a delay here.
I mean,
did you see any of that?
I did not see any of that. I don't think you can blame any of this on Dan Wilson either, right? Like, the umpires have full control over what's going on, right? It's ultimately the umpire's decision. Aaron Boone never came out. He never came out and complained. He never asked for this. I never saw the umpire look over at the dugout. The only thing that you could say happened, and I don't know this either, but is Will Warren giving him a look on the mound like, hey, man, I can't grip the ball anymore. Hey, my feet are slipping. Is Austin Wells, the catcher, looking at it, looking back and saying, hey, man, it's getting pretty bad right here. What do you think? And even if they did that, I don't really think that the players would have much of an influence on the umpires either. So I think this was the umpires, and I just think it was poorly handled.
Yeah, and I was also going to talk a little bit about Mariners always seem to be, I don't know, baseball gods have it in for the Mariners because we've always, like the Orioles, we're on a down slump. They come in and they kick around the Mariners, and now it's the Yankees run that 7-17 skid for the last 20 some odd games, and then boom, a 10-3 win over the Mariners, and it just seems like we've always just been that beating stick for these teams that are just trying to claw their way back. And I was really hoping that this wasn't going to kind of turn into that. We've also seen just incredible games against Tarek Skubal and guys like that where they just like, okay, they had no business winning that game. Paul Skeens and those types of stuff, even though they didn't hit around Paul Skeens, they ended up winning the game, which is ultimately what matters.
I was messaging somebody privately during the game, and that is a similar frustration that I have. I mean, there is an element of that's baseball, right? Like eventually the Yankees have lost 6 of 7. The Yankees are not going to be a team that loses 14 of 15. Like eventually they're going to win a series again, no matter who it's against. They're just too good not to. So there is a bit of, that's baseball. But at the same time, I'm kind of tired of the Mariners being everybody's get-right series, right? Like, you look at the Tigers who come in last August, and the Tigers are one of the worst teams in baseball, and Parker Meadows robs the Cal Raleigh home run in the 8th or 9th inning of that game. They end up winning that series. Then they go and sweep the Mariners in Detroit a couple of weeks later, and they just waltz to the playoffs after that, and the Mariners are their kind of get-right series. You look at Toronto. Right? The Blue Jays are under 500 when they come to Seattle. They sweep the Mariners in Seattle, or maybe they win 2 of 3. No, they swept the Mariners in Seattle. Yeah. So they get hot at the Mariners' expense. So yes, I am tired of the Mariners being other teams' get-right series. Okay, it can go the other way too. I'm sure somewhere in the last 5 years I can point to the Mariners who and said, hey, that team had lost 4 straight, and the Mariners buried them for 3 more. But it certainly feels like it goes more the other way, where a team is cold, and then they end up getting right against the M's.
Yeah, and also capitalizing on the return of Logan Gilbert. It just looked like when he came back after that, the command was gone, the split finger was lost. Most of the pitches were out of the zone. I noticed all of his off speed. He just had that struggle to command. And you just wonder, like, man, like, I know you and I have and Kyle, we've all pitched at kind of a higher level, and just especially in colder states and everything like that. Taking 30 minutes off, even if you have a big inning, is tough to come back, especially in the rain.
And here's the thing: it was a 35-minute rain delay, but it wasn't just 35 minutes. It was like almost an hour by the time you factor in that the Mariners were hitting in the top of the 5th as well. So, right, they get 2 runners on first and third. They had a couple of hits in that inning. So let's say that half inning. Okay, so Logan Gilbert throws his last pitch of the 4th. Now we come out. We got 90 seconds to warm up for the top of the 5th. We got a 10 to 15-minute top of the 5th. We stop that. We have a 35-minute rain delay. We come out. We warm up again. We throw another pitch to J.P. Crawford to end the inning there in the restarted top of the 5th. And now Logan comes out. It had to have been 50 minutes to an hour. And again, I'm not Logan and I'm not Dan Wilson, so it's not really my call. It could be Logan Gilbert's final start before the All-Star break. He could potentially have more time off. So if he was okay with it, then I have to be okay with it. Yeah. So that's how
the guys earned it. 100%. The guys earned it. And it's like, okay, if the guy wants the rock, you give him the rock. You let him see what he's got. I almost, not that I wouldn't respect Gilbert's efforts there and everything, but as soon as I saw some of those pitches just not be around the zone, just uncharacteristically not moving the way he wants them to move, or just the way he normally throws, and just seeing a little bit of those slights, man, I would just say I would have had somebody going, and granted, hindsight's always 20/20, but it just, you look at that and you're like, man, maybe would have kept us in the game, but then Legumina comes in, gives up a bomb, and it's like, okay, would anybody have saved us in that moment? No, baseball gods just had it in for us tonight. And hopefully we can just bury this one, go on to tomorrow, and hopefully Cal is just Cal again, and we can restart. A new day is a new day. But
tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day, right? Like, this is the Clark Schmidt spot in the Yankees rotation. He's out for the year now with Tommy John surgery. So they're expected to call up and start their number 10 prospect in Cam Schlittler, and who I don't frankly know a whole lot about, but it's going to be a guy's major league debut. And I've seen plenty of guys with major league debuts come up and throw 6 shutout innings against the Mariners. I've seen that happen more than once in my life. But if you have that matchup and Logan Evans, you might have to win 8-7 in this game. Like, I don't think this game's going 2-1. Okay, I don't think this game's going 2-1.
And just to give a little bit of reference on Schlittler, he spent this year split between AA, AAA Somerset, and then Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Most recently with Scranton Wilkes-Barre, has a 3.8 ERA. 5 starts, 23 innings, surrendered just 20 hits, and then collecting 35 strikeouts with 9 walks. So K-9's there. He can miss barrels a little bit. Curious to see how he has his major league debut, especially going up against Logan Evans tomorrow. Should be at least a good matchup. And of course, we gotta if we flip a coin, it's always going to end up on the wrong side as a Mariners fan. But also, I'm excited to see what this Cam Schlittler kid can do, and also hopefully tonight was just that. Hey, let's build some fire. Let's go back to the table and see what we can come back with.
Like I said this leading into this series. Okay, I wanted the Mariners coming. Let me back up. When they were at home for the last homestand, 7 games, I said I think they need to go 5-2. And the reason why you have to go 5-2 is because you have to build yourself a cushion for what's coming on this very difficult road trip. So they did go 5-2. So as far as I am concerned, while it would be painful, they have earned the right to go 2-4 on this road trip. Okay, like they built them a cushion by going 5-2 that if they go 2-4, I don't think that it's catastrophic. That said, there was never going to be a better time to play the Yankees than playing the Yankees right now. Okay, the Yankees have lost 6 of 7 coming in. You're seeing Will Warren, a rookie, Schlittler, a guy who's never pitched in the majors, and Stroman, who's really struggled and been injured a lot of the year. You're missing Fried and you're missing Rodon. The series was set up from the start for the Mariners to win 2 out of 3 here. Okay, 2-4 I would accept. 3-3 I'd be writing home to mom about. And this game and the Woo game were the games you're supposed to get as far as I am concerned in this series. And you punted away what I think was one of the games you had a distinct advantage in. Tomorrow I will call a wash. Logan Evans has pitched well and has, more experience. But at the end of the day, we have 2 rookies pitching. One of them or both of them could implode. We could have 11-10, or we could have one guy pitch well and the other and be 8-0. I don't know how tomorrow's going to go. But the Gilbert game and the Woo game were set up for you to win, and then you're probably set up to lose at least 2 of 3 in Detroit over the weekend because you're going to see Skubal in that series. So, you pencil that one in as a loss. And yes, maybe they'll win it, but you pencil it in as a loss. So 2-4 is acceptable to me, but 3-3 would have been greatly preferred. And let's also not forget, a lot of people think it's too early to be scoreboard watching. I start scoreboard watching on April 1st. Like when you've missed the playoffs by a game each of the last 2 years, I'm scoreboard watching on April 1st. And now the Yankees have a 3-1 season lead on you. And if they take one of these 2, they will have won the season series. And is that the difference between the first wild card spot and the second wild card spot, the second wild card spot and the third? Or is it the difference between the third and out of the playoffs? It could be any of those things. So, the idea that you could be in a spot to now lose the season series is a problem to me also.
Yeah, and I know we've all been critical on the Mariners just because we've had 20 plus years of drought. We've had, all this ups and downs of the woes of being a Mariners fan and everything. But I do have to give them credit where credit is due. On that 17-game road stint, 11-6, not bad. And they're in a spot to where they can gain some momentum and capitalize on that momentum off of a team who is trying to build that momentum. So this was definitely the series to try and get that done, but also to your point, yeah, if it doesn't happen, okay, we still got some time. But what I have noticed is, and maybe there's no correlation at all, but what I have noticed, there was that 14-game winning streak in 2022, and that led to a Luis Castillo trade. And then last year there was a little bit of fire going into the trade or going into the trade deadline, and they made the Randy Arozarena trade. It seems like there needs to be maybe just a little bit of steam. And again, maybe my correlations are just they're off. But I have noticed they have been at least building up a little bit of steam and not hanging around 500, which, again, they're not. But you could easily – we've seen it happen before. You can easily slip back to 500. It would just be nice to capitalize on the momentum that you've created off of a team that is still trying to build that momentum. And, again, if it doesn't happen, then we're looking at these next 2 series and going into the Astros series where – we kind of figure out who's on top of the division, who's going to stay on top of the division in that series at this point in time. I think the Astros, if they sweep you, you have almost, I can't say no chance, but you have really low chances of trying to win the division if you go into that Astros series with no momentum and you don't build the momentum up for that.
Look, I think they're going to be active at the deadline. Now, what does that mean? How many things are they going to be able to do? I think they're going to be active at the deadline. And I mean, look, barring them going like 3-18 until the deadline, like I think they're going to be around it enough. The American League is very mediocre. The team that scares me is Boston. They've scared me from the beginning. Look, I did radio in New England for 8 years, and I just stopped doing that in January. So, like, I'm very in tune with the Red Sox. I picked the Red Sox to go to the World Series, like, months ago. And while they were so disappointing early, they're about to get Bregman back. I think they're going to be active at the deadline. Like, I think that the Red Sox are good, even without Devers. Now, I don't think they should have traded Devers, but I still think they're good. They're only one game back now of the Mariners for the third wildcard spot as we talk right now. The Mariners don't have the season series over them either. They're 3-3, so there's additional tiebreakers that would come. So there are a lot of other teams that are falling out right now, but Boston is right there, and that's a team that scares me. But I think the Mariners will be active. I also think they will be in it. I think that the American League is generally mediocre. While I don't think Boston's going anywhere, I don't think that the Mariners are going anywhere either. Look, there are very few soft pockets in a baseball schedule. Okay, Boston is in one right now. They're beating up on, like, they're killing Colorado right now this week. They beat up on Washington over the weekend, so they're in a bit of a soft spot. But like, the Mariners have the Yankees, the Tigers. They come out and they've got the Astros and the Brewers. So that's 4 playoff teams in a row right there. And they've got another 17 games in 17 days outside the break as well. So. Look, it's not going to be easy. It's certainly going to be a challenge, but I think they'll be active at the deadline. I think they need to be. I think they need multiple things. I don't think they can get all of the things that they need, but I think they need multiple things.
I think you're right about the trade deadline. And honestly, guys, I've been talking way too much. Nolsey, Ty, what's your guys' thoughts going into trade deadline? What we should be targeting, what we should be looking at, and let's get some discourse going around that.
Real quick, Brad, I just want to ask you, having covered the Boston really well, we all know that they have one of the better farm systems right now in Major League Baseball. I'm not going to say tops, but they're up there. When you look at that farm system, they definitely need starting pitching. I think is one of the things that would really help Boston right now. A little bit extra depth there. Is there anything that the Mariners can do in that regard to maybe get a Major League piece for a Major League piece where both teams benefit with regards to Boston? They have such a plethora of infielders right now, right? And I just kind of wonder if you can't make a Major League for Major League piece trade with them.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't really think that the Mariners and the Red Sox match up particularly well on a deal, right? Like, I could look at it and say, okay, the Mariners could use Yoshida, but at this point, he's got 3 years and $45 million left on his deal. I certainly don't think the Mariners are going to want to take on the money. And if they don't want to take on the money, then they're going to, if they force the Red Sox to take the money, then the Mariners will have to kick in a better prospect. And I don't know that Yoshida's worth, a better prospect. So, like, could they use him as a DH? Yes, but I don't think I think the money complicates things there. If the Red Sox want to go with Roman Anthony and Rafaela and Abreu in the outfield, well, that makes Duran a little more expendable. The Mariners could certainly use Duran potentially. He's not making a lot of money, but okay, then, well, what do you have to trade? The Mariners they got 9 top 100 prospects. 7 of them are position players. The Red Sox system is loaded with position players. And the Mariners don't really have any pitching that's close to the majors to give Boston to help them. So I don't know that they really work out well there. If you are confident, and this is a major if you are confident that Bryce Miller could come back, then that would make one of Hancock or Evans more expendable. But I think that's taking an awfully big risk in thinking that Bryce Miller is definitely going to be back and capable of helping and being good.
It is worth noting that if there's a possibility that Bryce Miller comes back, but that makes other pieces expendable, and you could actually use them as trade pieces and everything. There's been a lot of talk. I know we've gone back and forth with it on our group chat about Ronald Acuna Jr. I wanted to get your take. Is there a possibility, or is that a type of guy that you do not let leave your organization? with the Braves and with their current situation?
Well, I think everybody is available for the right price. Okay. I think everybody is available for the right price. That said, homegrown talent, 25 years old, maybe 26 years old, in like 3.5 years at 17 million a pop. Like, that's incredibly affordable. Now, they need prospect help, definitely. And they've got, their best pitcher is 37 years old and injured right now in Chris Sale. So they do need some help, and they do need a bit of a reset. But a homegrown player at that price, I would say that is tough. If I were a Mariners person, would I do it? Now, I've been asked this, and I've gone back and forth with other people on social media. Look, I would want to trade for Ronald Acuna Jr. Everybody would want to trade for Ronald Acuna Jr. at that price, at that age, etc. That said, like, this idea that the Mariners need to give up their entire farm system and, oh, by the way, go in and throw George Kirby in, and God, I love Jage. He's incredibly inventive, but like that he wants to throw in Matt Brash in this deal also. I'm like, look, literal Juan Soto costs 3 top 100 prospects. Okay. Juan Soto costs 3 top 100 prospects. Now, we only had a year and a half left at the time he was traded, and he, was set to make more money. So I get that there's some other factors there. But if Juan Soto only costs 3 top 100 prospects, I don't need to give like 5 and give Kirby and Brash. So if you tell me it would take 4 top 100 prospects and that's it to get Acuna, then yes, I would do it. But my goal is for the Seattle Mariners to win the World Series this year, and getting Ronald Acuna Jr. and sacrificing George Kirby and or Matt Brash to do it does not make the Seattle Mariners closer to that goal. So I want Acuna, but I would make a ton of farm system trades for him, but I can't afford to trade from an already depleted major league roster. That's just robbing Peter to pay Paul at that point.
Yeah, and I did want to bring something up about the Acuna trade. I would be all for it. I would even give a good portion of the top 100 prospects that we do have in order to get him because of his contract, because of his age, and hopefully you find a way to keep that guy a Mariner for as long as you can keep him a Mariner. However, there is 2 players, and I think you try and keep maybe one of them because you do have the number 3 overall pick coming up in the draft, and you got the 35, and maybe you can replenish just a little bit. But something that you don't have a whole lot of, because Jerry loves his contact guys, you don't have a whole lot of power. You don't have a lot of that 40-plus bomb power.
So you don't want to trade Laz.
If we have to, we have to. Hey, listen, if it gets the job done, it gets the job done. But the other person, if you can keep one of them, I would prefer it, would be Brandon Garcia. You don't have a ton of left-handed pitchers that are prospects that can throw upper nines and that are that close to the major leagues. You have Reed Van Scoter. You got, Adam Seminaris. You got some of these other guys that aren't high level. Understandably, you have the number 3 coming up. If you can keep one of them, awesome. If you have to absolutely get rid of them, I'm still okay with getting Acuna because it's Acuna. I would just like in that trade for us to keep one. That's kind of the only reasoning I got is that you don't have a ton of power coming through.
It's interesting, and I don't claim to be the prospect guy, right? Like, I don't claim to be as in tune with everything in the farm system. But Laz, obviously, look, I want to keep him also for the same reasons you said. Clearly not a guy you want to pencil in for 140 games in the outfield. So there are questions there defensively. There are questions about Arroyo defensively. And so, yes, you love the hit tool, but is he really a guy that you can trust to play second base every single day? And, well, now you got Cole Young at second base. Like, so can one of them go play? Like, Arroyo would be a guy that I would probably be okay moving, again, because of the defense, the defensive limitations. We know about Harry Ford being blocked. We all like him. We'd all love to see him here, maybe instead of Mitch Garver. It's certainly at least next year, if not this year. But we know he's blocked by Cal. I can move on from Harry Ford as well. Arroyo I can move on from. Obviously, I'd want to keep Laz. I certainly want to keep Emerson if you can, given the fact that J.P. Crawford's going to be a free agent after next year. And so maybe in 2027, Colt Emerson can come up and be ready to start there. There's a lot of moving parts with it. The one thing I'll say, and I'm sure somewhere someone can tell me that this is wrong, but we have to give Jerry Dipoto credit that generally the guys they've traded away have not come back to bite them. The guys that they have dealt, they've chosen the right ones to deal. They don't always get the return right, but look, Edwin Arroyo hasn't burned them. And I know he was hurt for a year, but you traded Edwin Arroyo, you traded Noelvi Marte, the sky didn't fall. Neither one of those guys have popped. You traded Brandon Williamson to the Reds, didn't pop.
Connor Phillips. Yeah.
Connor Phillips to the Reds didn't pop there. Now, I know there's some talk about Aiden Smith being pretty good for the Rays, but he just dropped out of the MLB top 100, I think, after being in it. So, it's the Rays, so we assume that they're going to figure something out with him, and that might be one that you end up regretting. But, again, he did just fall out of the top 100. So they have done well on the guys they have chosen to deal to this point.
And I think something we're maybe forgetting. I think something we're maybe forgetting is that for a while now, Major League Baseball has allowed you to trade your draftees right at the end of the season, right? So with a lot of draft capital right now, right, you might be looking at, say, your second, third overall pick this year as a player to be played as well in a trade. So that's always an option too, right? There are potentially other guys you might be looking at drafting in the 50, when that was at 56th overall, maybe later, that you look and say, hey, will this be enough? Yeah.
I will be curious.
Enough to push a trade. So
I will be curious again if they draft or if their draft tells us any clues as to what they're thinking at the deadline, right? They don't, to your point and all of our points, they don't have a whole lot of pitching prospects, right? Especially guys that are close. I would think if they took Anderson or Arnold, they would be looking at those guys to be their guys that could get up relatively quick and be there within the next 2 years. If they take Arquette, does that tell you anything? Hey, we're willing to move on from one of these other middle infielders that we have because, all right, we're trading Arroyo, but we've got Arquette there. Hey, we're trading Emerson, but we've got Arquette there. Or maybe we're taking Arquette and we're trading him but if they take Arquette, does that mean that they are more likely to give up one of these other infielders? I do think that that's an interesting angle to at least pay attention to in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that actually does play. You make a great point there with that could indicate a little bit what they're looking to move on from. Maybe even shows their hand to other ball clubs in the trade deadline and everything. Did want to get to a question. Kichter has been just blowing us up in here and everything. He did shout out Brody Hopkins as being the one that probably will bite us in the butt.
Brody Hopkins.
Is will
doing
probably,
well, and
he's doing well.
Hasn't popped yet.
And that's the thing with prospects. They have not done a damn thing at the top. And so we'll see what happens. And that's kind of why I wanted to wrap that up with Laz Montez. As much as I would like to keep him, he has not done anything at the major league level. And you don't know how that's going to pan out. We've seen Cole Young not quite hit the ground running. Granted, he's young. Granted, there's still a road ahead of him. But we also saw what happened with Jared Kelenic. So there's nothing proven. And the prospects for the player that you're getting back and knowing what you're getting out of that player, I'm all for that Acuna trade. It was just if you could keep one of those guys because of where you're at and because of how good they've shown, I would like to. But also, hey, if you have to do what you have to do, you have to do what you have to do. Did want to get to this question, though. Which would each of y'all's dream acquisition be? So for this offseason, is there a player that you'd like to see, come to the Mariners? What does that look like?
In the offseason or at the deadline?
Deadline.
Man, see, it's so hard, right? Gino is the easy one, right? Because it fits every need, right? He comes in, he solidifies the middle of the order. He comes in, he brings you 30 home run potential, or in this case, this season, maybe 40 home run potential. He's already been in Seattle. He's a good clubhouse fit. He's a good culture guy. He already knows the ballpark. He's a free agent at the end of the year, so the money isn't as big of an issue moving forward. If you like Ben Williamson or if you like somebody else on the free agent market, he doesn't preclude you from reinserting Ben Williamson as a starter next year. If you like, so he doesn't block that guy. If you want to move any of these other infielders around eventually to third, it doesn't block that from happening. So Gino is the easy and the obvious one. I've been banging the drum for Charlie Morton for a couple of days now. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it's exactly what the Mariners need. Look, I think the Mariners need a long bullpen arm and a guy who can serve as rotation insurance, because I certainly worry about the rotation moving forward. Not because I think that these guys are bad, but because they all come with their own question marks, right? Bryce Miller, I have no idea if he's going to be healthy and if he's going to be effective. Emerson Hancock, we've seen be excellent. We've seen him get knocked around. So I don't know which Emerson Hancock shows up in the second half. And Logan Evans, look, his career high in innings professionally is 107. Like, we're already, I think, in the 80s at this point right now. So let's say they give him 130 innings. He's not taking a playoff team all the way to the end and making 12 more starts this season probably. So Charlie Morton is a guy that I like to be the long option in the bullpen and take some heat off Bizzardo and Legumina, who seem to pitch every day, but also be the rotation insurance if all of those things go wrong, and they certainly all could.
Yeah, and that's you want to know who I was actually beating the drum for at the beginning of the year. Granted, I think he's dealt with some injuries this year, but a little bit of an FU type of pitcher, which we don't have a whole lot. I feel like the clubhouse is a little bit more vanilla when it comes to just shaking things up and just being an animal. And maybe I'm wrong. I think Logan Gilbert has a little bit of that in him, and you see it come out. But Max Scherzer was one of the guys that I wanted to be that. Let's see what's left in the tank. He can help you out down the road. He can be long relief at this point in his career, and he's also got that veteranism in him.
There's 16 games over 500, so they're certainly not selling.
No, they're not selling. He was one of the guys at the beginning of the year because I think he was a free agent at the time we had brought up the conversation around him. But he was one of the guys that kind of fits that mold. Charlie Morton, veteran, a little bit older, could fit a little bit into the role and just comes in and just kind of not controls, but has that Justin Turner presence in the clubhouse and just is a good clubhouse guy. Geno Suarez is a great one. Nosey, who's your guy at the deadline? Who's your big transaction here?
So I've got two. One is a guy I wanted in the offseason, which was Xavier Edwards. Guy can play short, second, outfield. 25 years old. He's batting a 292, 360 on base, 340 slugging. He's not a home run guy, but he can play middle infield. He can play center field. He steals bags. I think I like Cole Young. He was kind of my dark horse. I really want him to succeed. But I think if you're trying to in a win mode, if you're win now mode, Xavier Edwards would be a great pickup. And then I've been beating the drum for a left-handed arm forever. We don't have any. We don't seem to have many in the minor leagues, at least starters. And so I think, talk about the draft. If we don't draft a left-handed pitcher, that would mean that we're maybe looking for one coming this deadline. I hope to think we were. And maybe we draft, Arquette and we try to go get a left arm or, it just kind of depends. But a guy that I like and his numbers don't exactly tell the same story would be like Kyle Freeland for the Rockies. He's 30. What did I have? What did he see? I think he's 30, 31, 32. I mean, he just played Houston on the third, pitched 6 innings, gave up 3 runs, got the win. 2 Ks, 2 walks. I mean, to me, he'd be a guy that you could have as a starter, or it could be that long reliever. I think in his last 4 starts, he's went 6+. And played good teams. And I don't think you'd take a lot to, I don't know. I think that would be the 2 people I'd look to pick up. And I think it immediately helps your team. And on top of that, if you get Xavier, let's say, maybe you move Cole Young into that kind of utility spot. I don't see the value with Dylan Moore anymore. And maybe you add Dylan Moore into a trade because obviously he can play. He can play just about anywhere. And then another guy, especially if we're looking for outfield help, if we can pull in a second or a first baseman, is Canzone. I know Canzone right now is playing great. You've got Rayleigh, who I really like, but if you can find a first baseman, you can put Rayleigh back in right field. Canzone right now might be the best major league trade piece you have outfield wise that you're willing to give up. And I know Dipoto. Now I know we talked about Dipoto's trades with minor leaguers has done well. Now the trades with the major leaguers has not done well. I mean, you think about Ketel Marte. I believe that was a Dipoto deal, right? That wasn't Jaxie.
Yeah, that was
I can't remember.
Taiwan Walker, Ketel Marte, Gene Segura trade.
Gene Segura and Mitch Haniger were both all-stars, though. So, let's not act like they got railroaded in that.
Well, no, they didn't get railroaded there. Now Chris Taylor, we got railroaded. So that would be the only one. So there was a couple of those guys in there, but I don't know. To me, I'd love to see Xavier and Kyle Freeland. I think Freeland, as Kicker talks about, I think he's sneaky. I think he would, and it's hard to look at pitching stats in Colorado. But I think he's a guy that would fit well into what the Mariners do, for half their games at Safeco. And we need a lefty. We need a lefty somewhere because Spire can't be the only one to do it.
What I've heard Ty bring this point up a lot in our conversations before is, and as Mariners fans and just as a Mariners fan base, we get attached to a lot of these prospects and stuff like that, and we don't want to get rid of them, and we worry too much about, is that going to bite us in the ass? In all honesty, if our goal is to win the championship this year, then we're okay with having one of those trades not going to our liking if we do the end goal this year. So giving up that capital. And I know, Ty, you've touched on that before, but also wanted to segue into you. What's your dream scenario for a trade this deadline?
I really don't think there's any 2 or 3 big pieces out there that you can make that make a huge impact for the Mariners. What I think you're trying to do is make incremental improvements. So, for example, the corner outfield right now, you got Randy out there. He's decent out there in the corner outfield with Julio running center, but platooning 2 left-handed hitters out there in one of the corners. I think you just want a guy out there you can stick up there and leave. And I kind of wonder if you can make a move for Brian Reynolds. It would be expensive. I would hope maybe you could. I know he's not performing well this year, and his OPS has been declining steadily the last 4 or 5 years. I would like to see what he is outside of Pittsburgh.
He's also got $70 million left on his contract.
Yeah. So
you did say they'd open up the paybook or the payroll. So I don't know what that looks like, and honestly, I'll believe it when I see it. But you're right. It's a steep price.
But I think if you toss in and this would hurt you toss in like a Luke Rayleigh or Dominic Canzone and maybe a couple other, maybe a prospect or two for Brian Reynolds, it's an incremental improvement. It's not a huge boost, but
you want them to trade Luke Rayleigh or Canzone, who are making no money, and Luke Rayleigh, who's good, for Brian Reynolds, who's 31, who's not great, who's got $70 million left?
Again, I want to see what he's like outside.
You want them to take on a $70 million average player and give up good players to do it.
It's not 70 AAV. Come on, dude. It's 70 over 4, isn't it? Remaining.
It's 70 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full plus the 5.5 years. He's already 30.
You're talking $13 to $14.5 million a year, right? That's what you're paying Randy Arozarena, and to be frank, he's producing about what Randy Arozarena is. So
Randy Arozarena was almost an all-star. He's going to go 2020 this year. I'm more interested in Ty's tweet about Tim Belcher than I am in his Brian Reynolds trade acquisitions. Can I get the answer on this tweet, by the way?
Take a look at it, man. Take a look at it.
What about a Matt Olson?
I just don't think you can. I don't think you're going to get anything from the Braves, really, realistically. I think Jerry's too concerned with winning a trade, or like you said, not giving away pieces that end up hurting us in the long run. And so when the Braves say, hey, we want X, Y, and Z, he's going to say, well, would you rather have A, B, and C? And they're like, no. And I think it's just going to stall a deal out with them. I don't know that you can make a big impact move this deadline. I think it's just all going to be incremental. And what I would like to see, if you do go make a deal with Pittsburgh, one of the guys in the IL right now, he should be coming off the IL pretty soon. He's a almost 70% ground ball rate reliever. We need another left-handed reliever because, let's face it, Spire is going to get adjusted to eventually. I love Ryan Borucki. He doesn't have great numbers, but the guy induces the most ground balls out of almost any reliever.
Former Mariner, great.
Former Mariner, great.
He's already been with the Mariners.
Yeah,
I'll
so
throw
you bring him back, and you I think if you can make that deal, you maybe improve maybe 1 to 2 total wins throughout the rest of the season.
So because this was a dream scenario, right? I'll throw an unrealistic one that'll just be fun to talk about, and then I'll throw a realistic one. Actually, the realistic one was Gino Suarez, and also before he got injured, Shelby Miller, and just going that route and just going straight up with the Diamondbacks. We've had a good trade history with them, and Gino, like you had said, makes so much sense to bring back. The vibes are hot in Seattle, but my unrealistic one, and I say that, I'll say that it's unrealistic. J-Ram. I know he's off the table. Understandably, he's going to stay in Cleveland. I think he wants to die in Cleveland. But J-Ram would be the one that I would go after hot. Along, obviously, the Acuna discourse is through the roof and everything. But J-Ram would make a lot of sense in this. But again, it's unrealistic, and a trade package for that guy probably rivals another Acuna trade type or somewhere in that realm, just with everything that it brings to the table. So that was my unrealistic and my realistic one.
Let's not forget that J-Ram is a 10-5 guy at this point, I'm pretty sure. So that means he's got built-in trade clauses.
And that's why he's the unrealistic. But obviously, we've seen no trade clauses get waived in the past as recently as Ryan Presley in the offseason. So it's unrealistic, but it's still not 0% chance, I guess is the best way to put it.
Not a 0% chance.
Not a 0% chance, and that's what we live in the game of baseball.
Speaking of like lefties, what about Colby Allard? Designated for assignment. I mean, his stats do not. I mean, unless there's something else I'm missing, his stats look pretty. 16 games, 2.5 ERA over 35 innings, 1.4 WHIP, 16 Ks. I mean,
softer throwing lefty. I mean, that's definitely up Jerry's alley.
I mean, look, you've got one spot in the bullpen. They have one spot in the bullpen. The spot that's occupied by Burgos right now, that is the spot that's open in the bullpen. So, and they've got guys on the 40-man that they like enough to keep on the 40-man. So whoever's coming in has to be better than Saucedo and Kowar, because those are the two guys that are on the 40-man that are next in line. Like, I would expect Burgos to be sent down at some point soon, and Kowar to come back. That would be my assumption. Now,
the fact
Saucedo is going to be up this week, it sounds like, because Carlos Vargas is going to end up on the paternity list. So Saucedo is going to be up here at some point in the next few days just to cover for him. So he's going to be back. But whoever's coming in has to be significantly better than those guys. Especially, look, they don't want to bump guys off the 40-man roster. That's very clear, right? Trent Thornton's making a lot of money for a reliever. They could have gotten rid of him during all of his struggles. They didn't. He's going to be here to stay for a while. Like, they don't have like many easy guys to easily replace. So if they're going to do it, it's got to be somebody good. And I don't think like, hey, let's take a flyer on Colby Allard is the guy to do that with.
Yeah, and I'm actually really surprised that when was the deadline for Kowar to make his entrance back? It was just a couple days ago, right?
It was like July 1st. I'm actually surprised he's not back already.
I'm surprised he's. Listen. Trent Thornton is Trent Thornton. He can spell you innings and stuff like that. But Kowar, at this point in time, Kowar is the guy that's going to help you win games. And I know the infatuation with Trent Thornton is through the roof in the organization. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes that backs up Trent Thornton over just, hey, cut your losses. Thank you for your tenure with the Mariners, and just kind of move forward with Kowar, because Kowar, he was electric so far. It just doesn't make sense why Kowar isn't getting the opportunities. He's the guy that's going to help you win more games right now. But another name I wanted to throw out there, the Nationals are the Nationals, and Kyle Finnegan is out there. I don't know his contract off the top of my head. And honestly, I don't think it would take an arm and a leg to get him. I think it would take a decent prospect, maybe even two. But Kyle Finnegan's another guy that could come in. You don't need him to be your closer, right? You got a pretty good, 8-9 going already, but he comes in and he's able to spell some 8 innings from Brash that you need every other game or two. Finnegan was one of those guys that I was just, hey, this could be a guy that comes in. He's better, like you had mentioned, he's better than what we already have internally, and he makes your back of the bullpen that much better.
And remember, I know he can't be counted on for anything, but he is going to be back healthy in August again, and that's Gregory Santos. And once he's healthy, he's also on the 40-man roster. So there's another guy to navigate. Maybe you want to stash him in AAA, but you're not getting rid of him, and he's going to be on the 40-man roster.
Yeah, you got to see that one through. Even though that was another trade that didn't really bite you too hard, but yeah, you've made the investment in the guy. You got to see that one through. See what happens with him. Maybe just see what his stint looks like with 10 innings or so in AAA. And if it's still terrible, then it is what it is, and you can kind of reevaluate once you get to the off season. But I think you're right. Santos is another name just to kind of keep in the back pocket, see how he comes back, and see what that looks like and everything. But listen, Brady,
Gavin, I got one.
Oh, go ahead.
I got one more for you. You brought this one up. It was one of our first episodes. We talked about trade pieces in the offseason. It was Ryan O'Hearn. What's the thoughts on maybe trying to bring him in? What's that take? Would have been great to have done it in the offseason, but here we are.
He's a name that keeps getting attached to the Mariners, and he's a name that gets attached to a lot of teams that need offensive help. He's an all-star, so that certainly is going to raise the profile and therefore raise the cost, but he's a free agent at the end of the year. No problem if he upgrades the roster, but it does kind of keep you in this same area you're in right now, right? O'Hearn comes in and plays first. That forces Raley to right field. Okay, then what happens with Canzone? That's the question there. The issue at first for most people is Solano. O'Hearn is also a left-handed player, so the Solano-O'Hearn platoon would be there in the same way the Solano and Raley platoon is there. So I'm not against O'Hearn. He's an all-star. He's a good player. And again, he keeps getting mentioned to me as a fit for the Mariners also, but there still are roster issues that come about as having him. You're keeping Solano if you have O'Hearn, and you're losing Canzone one way or the other. Either you're trading him or you're sending him to AAA. And then, oh, by the way, again, he can't be counted on. But what happens then when Victor Robles comes back? And he's going to be back, we think, in early September. And now he's in the mix. So I'm not against it, but it's not a simple fit is all.
Yeah.
So you think we're kind of first base by committee for the foreseeable future at this point, just because of, like you said, you make a move here, it takes out this piece. You have pieces coming that makes it even more of a logjam.
No, not necessarily. I hate to put this idea in the universe, but I could see a world where the Mariners try to trade for Gino and Naylor or just Naylor in Arizona, and they take on an expiring Naylor and give up a lot of control with Luke Raley. I could see that. I don't want to see that, but I could, where they go and they say, hey, well, look, we'll alleviate the logjam. We'll move on from Raley. We'll bring in Naylor to play every day. Now we have Canzone in the outfield. Now he can pair with Robles when he comes back, and we've kind of removed the problem by getting rid of Raley. Now, that's not a guy that I want to get rid of, who's got several years of team control, who's cheap, who can play first, who can run, who can hit for power. But if you're talking about a guy off the major league roster, I could see Arizona certainly wanting that profile for an expiring contract, and that would alleviate the Mariners' problem. Would also alleviate the Mariners' problem if they traded Raley for O'Hearn. I just don't think that that's really an upgrade, but for Naylor, it would be, although it's still not a deal I would want to make.
Yeah, I still think that Arizona seems to be kind of the best trade partner heading into this, at least from right now. It could change in the next couple of weeks. Again, we don't know. The Mariners can go back to 500 next week, and it's just, now we're having a different conversation about who it takes to kind of bring in, or what the trade chips kind of look, and just who's in it, who's out, who's all kind of moving forward and everything. But yeah, listen, guys, thank you so much. Brady, I can't thank you enough for jumping on, giving us your time. I know it's got to be 12:30 over there, and
it's all good.
And just a terrible loss, but hey, it happens. But hey, it's with Up West Sports. I'm Gavin. That's Kyle. Brady, thank you for jumping on. And just remember, life's too short. Gas up your boys.